Welcome back, brothers and sisters. I am Braden. This is Langley Outdoors Academy, the place where we not only talk about what's going on in the gun world, but also how we're going to fix it together. And the content that we're about to do to start this day off is I'm about to dive into the mind of a leftist gun controller. We're going to do it together, so prayers are appreciated. But in all seriousness, I want to show you something that's crucially important. Here's the high level as we go through this, okay? You got to have a crisis. You got to have a terroristic idea. You have to have this horrible threat to everything in order to continue propagating your gun control in the face of facts going against you. That's what we're about to look into, okay? It used to be guns are the problem. Then it became guns are an epidemic of health. And now it's guns are a risk against democracy. Everything that I'm about to show you is going to be linked right down there, and we have no one to thank but Davey Hogg himself for delivering this right up so we can destroy it and spike it into the ground of freedom. That's what we're going to do today. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn the notification bell on. And of course, every time you guys do that, you help this channel and you help freedom. And thank you so much in advance for that consideration. All right, beautiful people. Here's what inspired me yesterday, because I was perusing the interwebs and I saw the paragon of amazingment, David Hogg. Davey Hogg, gun control extraordinaire. He's got an orange box, so that must mean something. Anyway, check this out. Great article by this person on how the rise of gun deaths in the United States is so much more than a public health emergency. It's symbolic of a growing threat to American democracy. Okay, so I'm going to set up camp hard on this in a second. Remember, the progression of threat is what they're trying to chase here, okay? This is crucial to understand, but I thought it would be reminiscent to go through history and show you the Boston Massacre. That's a pretty big one. Which was then followed by this little nougat of a guy crossing some river with some guys. No big deal. Guns are what founded our nation. Guns are what allowed us to stand up to tyranny then and now. By the way, tyranny has changed its form. It's just in the form of Twitter now and sound bites. But back then, it was the form of taxes, oppression, and standing armies. Now it's just Twitter mobs. All right? Now, as we get into this, again, keep in mind the progression that we've had. Guns are dangerous, common sense gun reform. Guns are a health problem, it's an epidemic. And now guns are a democratic issue, okay? Listen to this. I want to take you into the mind, and they even openly admit some things here. Guns are not just a public health problem. This is an 11-minute read, and this is from Time. Everything's linked. The notion that guns cause a public health crisis best addressed through harm reduction strategies like background checks, red flag laws, and safe storage guidelines courses through the language of experts, doctors, activists, and media commentators. It courses through their language, all right. That language reflects gains made by gun safety researchers like me. Our work promotes well-being within the armed petri dish that is America. That's a nice way to say something that gives you all the blessings. Anyway, a nation with more guns than people and more mass shootings than calendar days. Okay, first of all, there's not more mass shootings than calendar days. Big fat lie. Liar pants, liar, liar, pants on fire. And there are more guns than people, and the crime statistics are actually going down. But they can't say that because then that takes away the punch of their argument. So now it's against democracy. They're all they're doing is sliding the slide ruler back and forth, all right? Let me continue, because this guy's coming from a position of gun researcher and analysis and the deep-rooted language, right? This is where they say it out loud. A health framework makes profound tactile sense. Guns present unacceptable threats to American mortality, and the numbers only worsen, even though they're getting better. Faced with such trends, public health experts and physicians mobilized to try to save lives in the same ways we once did when excess mortality resulted from cigarettes, faulty seatbelts, or asbestos insulation. Hey, you know what all three of those things were? Not rights. Your gun rights are a little bit different than cigarettes, faulty seatbelts, because that implies something's not working correctly, and asbestos, something that was applied across the board, and they found that it was actually bad for your health, and they removed it because it was a construction application. It was not a constitutional right, which granted you democracy that you're so saying, even though it's not a democracy, it's a republic. Other than those little nougats, you're spot on. Good Lord above. Anyway, let's continue. Like I said, we're going in. We're diving in, guys. We're diving in. Make sure you take your shots. All right. Now let's dive into this. I'm a little spicy because this insults the nation that I love so much and how we were founded and what we were founded on and the ways in which we did it, and like basically hacking freedom out from tyranny with the brute force of a actual firearm and standing armies and militias and everyday men sacrificing everything that they had for the idea of freedom of people today who are just going to spit on it. Yeah, other than that, I'm not emotional. Anyway, let's keep going. Background checks and red flag laws, for instance, offer little counter when expressly pro-gun judges and courts overturn firearm safety laws put in place by voters in places like New York, Maryland, and Oregon. Let's set up camp on that one. So now, if judges openly enforce the Constitution and interpret the Constitution as it is written, the guiding document of the land, they're pro-gun and they can't be trusted, and they're overriding common sense gun legislation passed by the people. Okay, it's New York, Maryland, and Oregon. Those are all places they went too far. New York, Bruin decision. Oregon, 114, yeah, they're getting smacked around because they went too far. Maryland, same thing, went too far. Permit to purchase, all those things. Well, all their dreams are hitting against a wall of reality and constitutionality, and they can't do it. So now they're leaning on the idea that, well, democracy's at question. More people want it than more people that don't. So therefore, democracy's at issue. That's what they're trying to do here, because they're common sense laws struck down by pro-gun judges. Or they are unconstitutional laws that you pass by convincing a bit of the population that you're trying to keep them safe. And the sheep said, that sounds like a really good idea. And then you found out it was unconstitutional because the document that guides our nation is meant to Stop. Hold on. I get all excited. The Constitution, the document that is meant to inhibit you from infringing upon their rights through the guise of safety, is what's getting in your way. So now it's the problem with democracy. See how easy that is? Common sense gun reform, now it's about health, and now it's about democracy because everything's not working. It's a slide ruler. I really hope I'm landing this plane. Anyway, last one. Last part of this. Gun politics bleed into realms of governance when pro-gun donors, politicians, and judges shape widening swaths of the U.S. domestic and foreign policy about matters ranging from women's reproductive choice to voting rights to free speech. You know what that translates to? You overstepped your bounds on the Second Amendment, so you got more and more people saying, hey, you're taking too much of our freedoms and our rights, so we're going to put pro-gun politicians in place, and now they're complaining about the other issues that are being affected. You stepped too hard on one of them, brah. And so then what's happening is you're losing in other areas. This is why you don't go so hard against constitutional rights. But they're not going to stop. So again, it's not their behavior, it's the problem with democracy, because guns and democracy, that's the issue. Even though the entire thing that brought our freedoms and our republic were guns, other than that, no issue. I told you guys we're diving deep, and I got 2 more clips for you. Guns also fan America's deepest social divides when armed militia storm state capitals or intimidate voters at polling stations, or when gun sellers play on fears and conspiracies about safety to foment white anxiety about black violence and looting, while at the same time marketing semi-automatic weapons to black and Latino populations using concerns about police brutality. Sweet baby goodness. Tell me you are not fomenting racial fears and inserting racial issues when you write a paragraph like that. You think it's any coincidence, by the way, just throwing it out there, that the largest groups of gun buyers were minorities and women, more so than have ever been in the history of our nation? You think that's a coincidence that they're writing this sentence right here? And Davey Hogg fully embracing it. Oh, you guys should read this. Check it out. Because the idea that minorities and women would buy guns, that clearly means they were manipulated and they couldn't make that decision on their own, and they can't be trusted with their rights because they're too stupid. They need to be protected by us, and they've been tricked by the gun lobby and pro-gun judges and pro-gun Republicans. You understand how insulting this is? This video is getting a little bit longer. That's okay. I'm on a roll. Legitimately, they are insulting people who are making rights for their freedom because you dared step outside of their control. Understand what that says. And one more thing for you. If you really wanted to dive into the mind of a leftist, this is what you have to do. All of which highlights, I have come to believe, the need for a broader approach. Democrats need to tie gun safety to the defense of the American public square. I'm a physician, sociologist, gun policy scholar, and a longtime advocate for gun safety. Our interventions save lives. Well, at least you're not biased. And the way in which this individual went about this is incredibly disgusting. We don't have a full-on original pure democracy. We don't. That's 2 wolves voting with a lamb for what's for dinner. We have a republic. That's an incredibly important distinction, but they keep on throwing this democracy word around like that's what we have and that's what everyone's going to try to destroy when it's not what's actually represented. Utilizing the points that they just said, We tried to do gun safety, and because we tried to do gun safety and we were unconstitutional, therefore it's pro-gun judges, and they want to take women's rights away. And they also really manipulated minorities and women into buying guns, and they were too stupid to figure out for themselves, and we're trying to really help them. So it's about democracy now, because obviously they shouldn't have guns. You understand what this article actually says and how insulting it is, not to mention the idea that it completely negates the freaking sacrifice, blood, sweat, and tears that people put into the ground for these people to do this. And you might end up where I'm at on this one after I read through this about 8 times. Everything is linked in the description box below. Let me know if I land this plane, and I will see you on the next one. I'm Braden. See you later.